Did STR Cell not even make the top 10? How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. It is that time again. We have another monthly TUR tier list that is checking in at where the new monthly releases fall in relation to the previous TUR tier releases. Now, as always, when we do our tier list, we look at the following three things. We look at number one, consistency. What is the unit's function? How well does it do it? And does it do it well? Number two, we look at versatility. How good is this unit? How well can it slide into other teams? And how well does it work on said other teams? As well as raw power. Now, this can come in the form of offense or defense. Is its raw offense so great that it forgives all other potential flaws, right? Think LR Tech Broly's EZA, or think Vegito on his active turn, right? Or is the unit's defensive so great that that is the thing that they're doing? It can forgive all else. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and let's check in on our red zone tier list. So for those that have been following for a while, we've begun to split our tier list. We basically have two sets of tier lists. One that focuses more on the red zone, the longer style content, and two, our second tier list focuses more on the battle hardened formidable foes and other types of short content. So let's start with the red zone tier list here, right? This is where we left off the last time, and we have three new additions to our list. I always like to do it this way so that way you guys can see how the list is shifting as the meta shifts. This allows you guys to kind of keep track of who's doing well, and of course I feel like this is necessary because a lot of people, once they see someone leave that top 10 spot, that feels like they're no longer of use, because you know we're just, a lot of tier lists are just created from scratch. I find that doing it this way allows us to see that, hey, this unit may not have reached the number 10 spots, but they're still good. There are a ton of units. Anyone within the top 50 units right now in Dokkan is a useful unit, and we need to keep that in mind as we go. So let's actually start with the EZA. I'm actually going to start there because I think my cell placement is probably going to surprise some of you. So let's start with EZA, Goku, and Gohan. These guys check most of the boxes here for power, versatility, and consistency. For consistency, their main function in the Goku state is to stack attack and dodge in slot 3. They have increased his dodge to 70, making his dodge a little more reliable, and increased the amount he can stack per turn, meaning he will stack to greater heights much faster. So in terms of what he is supposed to do, he does it pretty well. He is limited to hit those he's limited to his 70% chance, which means if you miss the 70% chance, he could slow down on the supers, as well as any hidden potential investment you have when using him. So little ding on consistency there, but otherwise, you know, you're averaging, you know, in any given fight anywhere between you know, on a medium style fight, anywhere between, you know, 2 supers per turn to 3 supers per turn on a good turn. So it's still pretty good. In terms of versatility, by the very nature of him not having any category restrictions and being a Super Saiyan Goku unit to start, that means he is very versatile. He can slot anywhere those types of units can be used. And then finally, raw power. Is the unit's offense so great that everything else is forgiven? Honestly, I feel like this is where it sort of falls short, at least because of the base form. The base form's main function is to stack attack. No stacking defense, is to stack attack so that Gohan can, you know, deal the big damage numbers. Now the thing is, Gohan, once he comes out, loses the additionals that he had been previously built up, and a lot of his defense has to rebuild up as the turns go on. So he can lose a little bit on power, but when he is fully built up, he is an incredibly powerful unit, right? Able to reach, you know, way, especially because he has a counter attack that deals ferocious power. That's a 400% multiplier. That makes him very, very useful in some of these bigger red zone fights. So given that, I would actually move these guys into the number 5 slot, and that would basically shift this whole list down, popping off this. And I actually think, yeah, and this would move Slug sort of out a little bit. Buhan actually still has a lot of good use in the longer red zones thanks to being on Cell's team. He can pop his domain towards the end once the 2 Cells domain run out. So honestly, I feel like this is a pretty good place for the units. So moving on to the next unit, AGL Cell here for the red zones. Remember, we're talking specifically about usage in red zones here. I'm not considering Festival of Battles as, right, the 3 units I'm bringing up here are not really meant for that fight. So that's not a consideration here. Now, in terms of consistency, Cell is... They fixed a lot of his consistency by increasing the amount he stacks per turn and giving him guard giving him guard instead of just reliance on dodge. They've increased his ability to be consistent. You're more or less going to get about 2 supers per turn out of him, allowing him to stack much more and reach greater heights than he ever could before. The only area where you might fall short is in his transform state. You could miss a dodge or 2, and because he's not a slot 1 unit, if you have to move him in slot 1 for whatever reason, that could potentially create problems for him. But in slot 2, he's more than likely going to be extremely fine. In terms of versatility, unfortunately, this is where I have to give him a ding. In terms of versatility, by very nature of being a cell unit, especially one that starts as a first form cell, he's not very versatile. He's got one place where he can be, and that's pretty much it. And that is on the STR Cells team. No other unit, aside from Glorio, I think, Lee, which is a recent, even though it's 200%, is the most recent release, holds. So no other recent release can hold Cell on their team. In terms of power, this is where he kind of comes back into it, though. He is easily one of the highest damaging TURs out there, given that, you know, he can easily start, like, if you're stacking 2 supers per turn, by the final turn, he's easily throwing out 70 to 80 plus million supers and doing multiple of them, 3 to 4 supers per turn. So that's really, really good, making him one of the more powerful TURs. So with that in mind, where would I place him, right? For him, I would definitely say he is probably, I can forgive the versatility. I can forgive the versatility here I can forgive the versatility and pretty much place him right above Goku and Gohan. So this is going to shift these guys down even more. So having him right at number 5, shifting Buhan off a little, right? A lot of these other characters still have use in those longer red zones. So that's kind of why, I mean, you notice a lot of these characters here are built for longer events. So that's kind of why they're remaining here, given, you know, in spite of some of these other characters. Not to say that any of these other characters I've been moving off are terrible. Just for the red zones, these guys tend to work out a little bit better. And so all that leaves is the STR Cell. Where does he fall into these categories? Well, let's start with consistency. So he takes a big hit on consistency because he is a character that has to be forced a revive, and since he has to be forced a revive and that his revive is strictly only for the character who revives the buff who receives, it makes him not as consistent, right? I've had situations where I cannot get the super until it's far too late, and by that point, you know, it's not, you have to deal with some other issues of getting back built up to the proper defense, and that can be a very, very big problem. And he's just all around, right? He's got you know, he's got some additionals built in, he's got some crit built in, but it's not enough to really push him in any direction or the other. Pretty much the defense you're going to see post revive is what you're going to see no matter how many supers he does. He can do a few supers to reach, you know, greater, you know, upwards of 1.5 million with guard and damage reduction, but it's still, you know, it's inconsistent because of the percentages on his chance to super. So got to give him a little ding on consistency there. In terms of versatility, again, that's where things sort of fall apart. Him being a cell unit means that he was only good next to other cells. He's got some good options for you know, for a team on there with he's got some good options to run next to him, but they only work on a team with him and other cells. Like, that's pretty much it. Cell is a very greedy link partner in that he needs other cells for him to function at his best. Now, finally, that leaves raw power, right? Where does raw power fit into this, right? Typically, I look at offense and I look at defense numbers for this, and unfortunately, in Cell's case, while his defense is decent, it is tied to that revive, which can make the power a little bit lackluster if you don't get it. It also means that it also means that if he revives too soon, right, that power coming from his defense is, you know, it can be not enough, and it could end up costing you the fight. So I kind of have to ding him there. He has almost no offensive power whatsoever, so there's another big ding there. So really, he's one of the first units we've had in a while that, although he can be good, doesn't really check all of the boxes like we normally have. So given that, I honestly think it's appropriate to put him at I would probably put him at number 10. This is kind of crazy to say because he is a new TUR, and I do like the unit. I think the unit is good. I see what the unit needs potential for the future, but at the current moment, he's just not there. And if he doesn't get the help that he needs, it's going to be hard to kind of justify him any higher than here. But I do like him. I think he's good, and him being in the top 10 even means he is good. It just means that, you know, the rest of who we have up here is still a little more useful than he is at the current moment. Again, none of that to say that Cell is bad. So that is our red zone tier list. I've kind of shifted around from before, but I do kind of still feel like this is an appropriate setting. I would say pretty much anyone from 3 to 6, I could completely understand moving around and shifting higher. In fact, I would even not argue with you if you said, you know, Goku and Cell's EZA are better than Path to Power, Daima, and Daima Goku and Daima Vegeta. I would probably agree with you that there's an argument to be made to place them above them, but I still kind of feel like what those two are doing for their teams is kind of why I keep them at number 3. It is it's so valuable, the kind of support that they provide. So that's our red zone tier list. So the question is, what about short content? I feel like we're at a little bit better state of TURs, and I've had more time to, you know, play with them. So for the short content, I do still feel like the number's pretty similar, although I will say, having used him a little bit more, I'd like to move Kid Goku up a little more above Glorio, and again, moving Goku up as well. He's very, very useful. Still, you know, the numbers are still kind of high for him beyond turns 2 and 3, but he can still work pretty well for turn 1, and that's kind of why I move him there. Now, in terms of the other releases, right, in for number 6, I would like to slide in Path to Power Kid Goku. I think now that I've had time to test him in there, I think he's a perfect addition for the battle-hardened formidable foes and short content because he requires no build. He's just doing what he's doing there, no matter what. In terms of the new EZAs, unfortunately, I don't really think they fit that well on a list for battle-hardened formidable foes because they just I mean, both of them require a lot more time. I would say Goku is probably a little more useful because you're more likely going to be able to pull out Gohan, even though he won't be having too much attacks, than you are to be able to get to Final Form Cell, or rather Perfect Form Cell, by the end of the fight. Because remember, his transformations are tied to the turn, and that means if you miss a turn of attacking, he's going to lose stacks. And, you know, you're just probably not going to get, like, if he shows up turn 1, you have turn 5 to be transformed. If he shows up turn 2, you have turn 6. More than likely, you're not getting all the way to perfect form. That's kind of just how it is. So if I had to place him, I would probably place him a little bit more down at the bottom here. Now, for STR Cell, I actually do think he works pretty well in battle-hardened formidable foes. He's just that good with the revive, right? That revive basically essentially getting you a free turn is very, very helpful. Speaking of revives, right? This means that Boo is still very much alive and well in short content. I do think I would actually probably move AGL Cell above this. So this is probably where I'm at for TURs and battle-hardened formidable foes and other short content. Even though you won't fully get to Cell's evolved form, he's still going to be working pretty well with the dodge and the extra buffs that he's going to be getting. Of course, Cell with his domain and his revive, very, very useful. And then Boo, having been able to use him a little bit more here, still rocks it in that fight as well. If you're not running Cell, obviously, he is a better option for a revive plus Ghost Usher combo to keep the fight rolling forward, which is definitely what you need in battle-hardened formidable foes. So, guys, that is it for our video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know, what do you guys think of the list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Again, this is just my list based on my opinion and my testing. I do always like to utilize these 3 things to kind of make my determination in those fights. And I think I'm pretty solid with where we're at. Again, I would say the top 3 is pretty solidified, although 3 to 6, I could definitely see an argument for shifting any one of them around above the other. 7 and below is just sort of the nature of where we're at in the 10th anniversary meta. I imagine this will shift drastically as more and more new releases get moving these guys off. Not to say that anybody who's been moved off here currently is bad. This is why I do it the way I do it, so that way as you see how these guys shift, you can understand that they are still good even if they are not here. In terms of the short red zones here, or the short red zones and battle-hardened formidable foes, this is definitely a much harder one to place for TURs. It's really easy for LRs to kind of set this up, but for TURs it's a little different because they are actually a little more rounded and less hyper-specific, outside of a few rare cases, which allows these the short list here to be a little more flexible. So guys, that is it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know, how would you build your tier list? What would your top 10 look like? Let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching and aloha.